everybody. Welcome back aboard. Today we got Ryan McKay and Greg Chaisson from the new band forthcoming Atomic Kings. How are you guys?
Very good, thank you.
We are groovy.
Groovy, huh?
Yeah.
Well, let's see. You guys got big things going on. Atomic Kings, let's see, consists of the two of you, Ryan, you on guitar, Greg on bass, of course, Ken Ronk.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
And Marcel on mimes. No.
Yes.
And Jimmy Taft on drums. Can't leave him out.
Jimmy Taft on drums and Ken Ronk on vocals.
Now, of course, Ryan, you've done a lot of stuff. Crash Street Kids for 5 albums, or?
Yeah, 5 total if you include the double live album we did.
Right. And then,
in
of course,
a very short period of time, it was like 6 years total. So
Gotcha.
in that span, so we were prolific.
Yeah, that's actually a lot. Yeah. And of course, Louis Prima Jr.
Yeah, did 3 records with him, although the third one hasn't been released yet. We recorded it right before COVID, and the label's still sitting on it and waiting for Louis to get busier on the road and to promote it. So although I'm no longer with Louis Prima, but I'm really excited for that album to come out because I think it's really good. It's got some great songs on it.
Of course, it's not Junior, obviously, but Louis Prima. I'm a teenager from the 80s, so of course my exposure to Just a Gigolo was David Lee Roth. But
right, and so that's Louis's dad. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it was also Louis Prima Sr. was also King Louis in the Disney film The Jungle Book, the old cartoon version.
Right.
I Want to Be Like You was always in our set, as is Just a Gigolo.
Yeah. So obviously you've got your jazz chops together pretty well. To be playing.
Kind of not. I'm not really a jazz guitarist, but I used to teach guitar. So some of my students were studying jazz, so we would get the real book, which is kind of like the jazz Bible, and we would just pick out some songs and play through them and all the different all those crazy, jazz chords, B flat 13, and all those kind of, C6-9 sharp 11,
Right.
all those kind of crazy things. So
the chords I play when I miss a string by accident.
Yeah, just call it jazz.
Right. And of course, Greg Chaisson from Steeler, Surgical Steel, Badlands, Red Dragon Cartel, many others also. So let's go into what's Atomic Kings all about. What's the approach? What's the sound?
I'm still waiting for my first copy of Crash Street Kids. I just want it to be known that Ryan has never given me any Crash Street Kids records. And that's weighing heavily on my mind.
They're out of print. They're very expensive.
You got me a few copies about 6 months ago.
Wow.
Whoops.
Oh, I see how this works now. Okay. All right, I'm leaving.
But of course, I just had to track down an 8-track player to play them.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's very old school, really retro.
I thought it was reel to reel.
Right.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Atomic Kings, very 70s vibe, very riffy, very bluesy. Every influence and idea that comes into any of our heads, we're all game to try it. As far as whether it works or not, we'll just figure it out. And we don't have any hardcore direction as far as exactly what we're going to do. We're always trying different things, but it all comes out with a very 70s sort of blues rock kind of vibe, not unlike what I've done in other bands as well.
Right. You've always had that kind of melodic 70s approach. I've likened you in the past to, when Badlands first came out, I was always saying like, this guy sounds kind of like a John Paul Jones, Felix Pappalardi type guy who's playing melodic lines, not just thumping on the roots. So I've always liked that approach of yours.
I always say that I don't sound exactly like anyone. I sound a little bit like everyone from that 70s school. Matter of fact, when I was in Badlands, I got a review. A guy said, if John Paul Jones married Geezer Butler's sister and they had a baby, it would be Greg Chaisson. So I thought that was a pretty good compliment. Also, around the same time, I got to see a review that said my bass playing was a complete cipher. You wouldn't miss me if I wasn't in the band. So I had both sides of it.
Yeah.
Weird.
So if I were starting to feel like I, had all that going on, I just read the crappy review and go, oh, okay, no, never mind, back down to earth. And if I was ever feeling pretty bad, I'd go, okay, yeah, I'm John Paul Jones's love child.
Right. If you ever need to pick me up, just keep that one on the back end, reread. So as far as the album goes, are you guys all local? You're all in the Phoenix area? I mean,
Yeah.
the reason I'm getting to this is so many bands now are emailing each other tracks, and I've worked that way. I mean, were you getting together in a studio and working? Were you playing the same room, or were you trading tracks that you were doing on your own and collaborating?
We were playing in the same room. I mean, I would write a riff and bring it to the guys, and then Greg would write some stuff and bring it to the guys. And so all of it was pretty much put together in one room. And yeah, so I think it's good to kind of get your ideas out in person like that and get the things put together face to face, one-on-one or 1-on-4, 3. That way, you know, it's the way it's always been done. We've been playing music long enough to where all this technology didn't exist. So that's kind of like what we're used to doing. And, you know, we had some bouts with COVID a couple times that sidelined us for a while. And, you know, as far as getting together, but we just kind of waited until everyone had a clean bill of health to get back together and start working in the same room again.
I mean, Ryan and I work at the same place. We work at Bizarre Guitar and Drum in Phoenix, and we rehearse in the back room back here. So depending on what's going on, we would get together 1 to 3 times a week. If we were writing or getting ready for a show, we would get together 3 times a week and rehearse in the back and knock out all the ideas and do the arranging and do all that sort of stuff. But traditionally, we always rehearse about 1 time a week anyway, just because Ryan and I are always coming up with new ideas and new songs and new, hey, let's see if this works. And I got this crazy idea. What do you think? And then we bring it into the band and see what happens.
So as far as that goes, you're recording in a studio all together. Are you still miking cabs? Are you recording anything direct, or you're still?
Yeah, I'm still doing
to an SVT or.
Yeah, both bass and guitars. It's mic'd up. You know, we don't use any of the. Again, there's more technology available now, like in terms of like direct bass recording or guitar recording. But still, to me, the sound of guitar and bass is the sound of air being moved. You know, there's something about the feel of it, because I've experienced working in Kemper is like one of the new. Kind of hot things now that a lot of producers are using. There's the feel's not really there, you know, in terms of the response that a speaker's giving you. It's pretty cool and close, but we've got, you know, gear that we like, and it's like, man, you just throw a 57 in front of that guitar cabinet, and that's every great record from the 70s. So
I'm with you 100%, but in the defense of the digital stuff, I will say, damn, it's gotten a lot closer in the last few years.
It's gotten a lot way better.
Yeah.
The Kemper stuff is good. I mean, for punching in, maybe, you know, like, oh man, I've messed that up, and that was 6 months ago. But they've, you know, recorded that sound on the Kemper, and if it's just like a note or two or something, you could fly it in, and it's pretty darn close. You may not be able to detect.
And if it's been
a different day,
any amount of time, like with an analog amp, you could keep your settings exactly the same and come back the next day like, I want to punch in right here, and you might not get that exact tone with the two.
Absolutely.
You know.
Right. Yep. Yeah.
So that is a good thing to have. I can see that as being touch-up material. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
I mean, even live. I'm sorry. Even live. Like when we play live, a lot of times the sound engineer will just want to take me direct, and I won't allow it. Even when I was in Red Dragon Cartel, you know, I would tell them I want to mic the cabinet, and they'd say, why? And I say, because I don't want you to have control over what my bass sounds like.
Right.
And you know, to a certain extent they do, because I'm going through the PA, but if all of a sudden it doesn't sound right, I just turn my amp up a little bit on stage, and I at least get the sound that I want right behind me, so it sounds like me. So I'm a big fan of, I mean, I play an SVT. I have a number of cabinets right now. I use 2 412 cabinets made by a company called Crunch. And they make me some great cabinets, and it moves a lot of air, and I'm just used to that sort of thing. I'm pretty old school. I'm not really interested in having in-ears or a toolbox, you know, the little thing they stick in front of you, and no amp at all. I get Geddy Lee and his washing machines he had behind him when they played their last tour, but I want the vibration of the cabinet.
Right. As far as writing songs, and just not even a song, but coming up with an idea. Say you've got a song in the works and the two of you are bouncing back and forth. Do you tend to come up with your ideas when you're in the mix of writing a song, or do you tend to be driving around town the next day and that chord progression, whatever's running in your head, and be like, oh, you know what might sound good there, and that part is this? At what point do ideas tend to come to you? Do they just bounce out of you out of the blue, or do you need to be in the environment and working on it?
Both for me. I don't know how you, I mean, I know that Greg will do that where he'll be thinking about it and then it'll pop into his head like what needs to happen next in the song is whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where I'm kind of in the moment, write the riff or a couple riffs and see what happens, you know, from there. But yeah.
I mean, I think Ryan writes more on the guitar than I write on the bass. I don't necessarily write on the bass. I'll write it in my head. I'll have some kind of riff in my head, and then I'll say, oh yeah, that sounds kind of cool. And it's weird when I'm writing it that way. I can hear what the drums would be doing, what the guitar would be doing. And so I'll kind of almost write out the parts I'm interested in my head, and I'll come into rehearsal with these guys and I'll say, I got this idea or these couple ideas. I've never actually played it on my bass before.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not even sure what key we're in. So I'll try it right then. Look, there's a cat.
Yeah.
Look out.
Black cat.
The dog's right here too. The cat worships the dog. So
there you go. So I do a lot of my writing in my head, and then I'll just present it to the guys. And what I'll normally say is, does any of this work? Is this moving anyone? And if they say yeah, then we'll move on, and Ryan will throw in his bits, and Jimmy will, and Ken. And if they don't like it, then I basically fire them all and get another band that likes to do my
right. Well, as opposed to somebody like me who I finish a song, then I go, I'm not really sure what key this is in, but
oh, that happens to me all the time.
Yeah, that's him too.
I'm sometimes I'll bring it in and I'll start figuring it out. I'll go, there's no actual key on it. This is a note in between a half step down and A440, and then I have to kind of transpose it. So I mean, lately I've been getting more into writing some things on my bass. I'll come up with some weird stuff, and I'll play it for him here in the store. That's the advantage of us working together. So I'll say, hey, I wrote this last night. What do you think of it? And then
I'll say it's terrible.
I'll say you're fired.
And then he says, I'm fired.
And then we'll I think both he and I have quite a backlog, if you will, of material that we could throw out at any given time. I mean, I know he's writing stuff for a solo project that he's doing that's kind of poppy. I have a kind of this other simpler ZZ Top on steroids thing that I'm kind of fiddling around with. So we're always writing. And it's funny because here in the store, we shoot videos for our YouTube channel, which is called what?
It's Bizarre Guitar on YouTube, youtube.com/Bizarre Guitar.
And it's basically videos of gear we have in the store. We have about 1,600 guitars in here and amps and drum sets. And so we'll shoot these videos for our channel. They're like an, informative video, but they're done real lo-fi. And Ryan will play whatever instrument is, and I'll just be the cameraman making stupid comments behind it.
Making fun of me.
But the interesting part is that after we get done, I'll say, hey, what did you just play in that one part? And he'll say, where? And I'll say there. And I'll say, remember that. We're going to make a song out of that. And there's actually a couple songs on this record that were born out of that kind of thing. And as a matter of fact, there's a couple new songs that he has to go back and find the video, because I was saying, remember that one time and he said, oh, I wrote this part. I said, find it somewhere and we'll work on it. So
yeah,
we're always working on material. So
there's no shortage of material.
Yeah. That's somehow
because we don't follow any rules. So it's not like we're trying to write a 3-minute, 2.5 minute, 3-minute hit song. We write till the song is complete. And if that's 4.5 minutes or 5 minutes or even 5.5 minutes, then that's what it is. And we're comfortable that way. Well,
with Atomic Kings, you guys have, I don't know how pre-planned this was, but you guys have a video you did in the parking lot.
Yep.
I'm assuming outside the store, but for whatever reason, the mix on that is fantastic. I mean, it sounds like a soundboard recording. It's like, I was like, okay, here's them in a parking lot. And I was like, well, this is like really clear. It's like, it's really good mix.
It's strange how good it sounds.
Yeah.
I just got lucky, you know, outdoor gigs, sometimes they work that way. And the PA sounded good too. Like Jimmy had his PA down there and a guy running it. So we had that, but yeah, that was crazy.
We did that actually. They shut down the street here for a once a year for a street fair, and it's like a half-mile long, and they have vendors and car show and actual stage with bands on it and all this stuff. And so it kills our business here in the store. So I said, here's what we're going to do this year. And we had been planning it for a couple months. I said, we're going to set up in the parking lot, and he'll bring out his Marshall and I'll bring out my stuff, and we'll set up a PA and we'll play loud, and we won't care. We'll play till the police make us stop. And so we started playing, and people, at one point, we probably had 1,000 people standing in front of us watching us play, and they didn't tell us to stop. There were policemen over there filming us, and they were all digging it, and everyone was dancing around, and we didn't get the exact response that I was thinking we were going to get, but the response we got was so positive that it actually, to be honest, kind of told us, okay, we are onto something here. We are going in the right direction. And you were talking about the videos. There's some video on our page as well, on our
Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah, what's our Instagram page?
It's Atomic Kings Band.
Atomic Kings Band. We had some videos on there. A friend of mine, we had a number of people videotaping the parking lot, but a friend of mine videotaped the whole show, and he sent it to me that night. And I went, wow, this is actually really good. So I sent it over to him, and I said, you got to listen to this. And we were like, man, that's really clean. You can hear everything. It's not distorted. Well, we posted some on our Facebook page and this and that. A friend of mine who runs sound for Ace Frehley, a guy named Night Bob, who's a legendary sound man from the 70s, 80s, 90s. He was Badlands sound man.
Okay.
He saw the video and said, man, that was awesome. And I said, the only thing that would be more awesome is if you ran sound for us. And he said, well, how would you like to open for Ace Frehley? I'm running sound for Ace at the Marquee here in Tempe, and we're looking for an opening band. Why don't you come and be the opening band? And I said, would you be running sound? And he said, yeah. I said, done. So that's how, it's weird that one little parking lot gig, which was supposed to be just kind of an FU to the people that were killing our business, turned out to be this really great thing. From the video response from the parking lot to Ace Frehley, where we got amazing response with Ace Frehley.
Now, when you got there, did you say, I just want your direct signal?
He knew better.
No, Night Bob, the thing about Night Bob is he always mixed, especially Badlands, mixed us loud. We were out with Great White and Tesla and Cinderella and some of those people, and we were always way louder than we were, because he's old school from the 70s, same as us, and Jake plays really loud. I played really loud. And so, while a lot of bands had this backdrops and these little teeny cabinets behind it, Jake had 3 Marshall stacks, I had 6 SVTs or Seymour Duncans, and I mean, we were actually using actual stage volume. So one of the reasons that I thought it would be great to have Nightbot mix Atomic Kings is because I know that's how he mixes. So when we got to do the sound check, we did our sound check really loud. And, Ken, our singer, was going, is that all right? He was, oh yeah, it's perfect. And we
so rare.
Literally, our sound check took, what, 2 songs?
If that.
And he said, I said, how do I sound? He goes, sounds like Chaisson. I mean, he knew exactly what we were going through.
Right.
The vibe and everything. So it was really the perfect gig. And he's, the best sound man for the kind of band we do. And he's one of the best sound men ever anyway. So,
that reminds me of a random story from an interview from back in the day. I know I'm trying to test your memory, and sometimes stories aren't exactly what they are said in interviews and magazines, but you saying the sound check, the story that I think Ray or maybe Jake gave for Voodoo Highway back in the day. Somebody asked about the Fire and Rain cover, and he said you were planning on doing something else, and Ray accidentally called for Fire and Rain instead of whatever he meant.
Fire and Waters.
Yeah.
So what happened is before we would go on the road, Jake would make cassettes. Now, cassettes, children, but no. So he would make cassettes with cover songs on, and he would have, and between Eric and I and Jake, we had this huge vocabulary of 70s kind of obscure, cool rock songs, and the same when Jeff Martin joined. So we would have a cassette, and those are the songs that we would play for sound check. We would never play our stuff. We would never play Badlands songs at sound check. We would do a little bit of Winter's Call just to kind of get the vocal harmony thing. Okay. Other than that, we would play, you know, it could be anything from Purple Haze to I'll Be Creeping by Free, or 4-Day Creep by Humble Pie, Parchment's Farm by Cactus, you know, stuff by Mountain, whatever Jake had in mind, or whatever, you know, whatever we agreed on. So on this particular tour, we were always playing Fire and Water by Free. And one time Ray said, let's play Fire and Rain, thinking he was playing Fire and Water.
Right.
Or suggesting Fire and Water. And so Jake immediately goes into Fire and Rain. Jeff and I, or Eric and I, go right into Fire and Rain, and we play the whole song, basically almost like how you hear it on the Voodoo Highway record.
Okay.
So we were playing it like at sound check for about 2 weeks. And then Jake said, we better quit playing this, or Great White or Tesla is going to end up stealing our version of it. Because it was, you know, every time we'd play it at sound check, everyone would stop. Of course, listening to Ray sing Fire and Rain is just, I mean, his version of it blows James Taylor's away. And a little caveat to that is James Taylor knew we were recording it. And he sent a message to our record company and our management asking us not to record it because the song was too personal to him, and he didn't want a rock band doing it. And it was just going to be like, he was afraid it would mess up the sensitivity of it. And of course, you know, us being like team players and very sensitive said, stuff it. And we did it anyway.
You did a very good version of it. And I can, but on the flip side of that, I can almost understand his apprehension. If he wasn't familiar with it, well, like if he's thinking like somebody like, and I'm not knocking him, but if he's thinking like Poison or somebody's gonna do a flippant kind of thing. My dog's dreaming. Sorry, he's doing that little bark in his sleep thing.
Yeah, Ryan does that all the time in the store.
Yeah,
it's so cute when they do that.
Only when I'm taking my 4-hour nap.
It's actually not that cute when he does it.
But no, I can see that. But it was pulled off well. I thought it was a great cover version. It's one of those. Some bands can do that where they can do a cover song and make it their own. You guys did that, and Van Halen was always good at doing that, where they did a cover where they kind of put their own stamp on it.
Well, kind of the shtick with the whole thing was Atlantic wanted us to record for the single for the second record, a Vandenberg song, Burning Heart.
Yeah,
but which had already been a hit or whatever before that.
Yeah.
And so they were really pushing for us on that record to record that, and we didn't want to do it. And then they wanted to bring in a couple songwriters, Todd somebody and Desmond Child, and we said no. And they said, well, what are you going to do for a ballad then? And we said, we're going to do Fire and Rain, and which we did. But at that point, we were already at odds with them anyway, and it didn't really matter what we did.
Yeah. And plus, I mean, good call on that. Like, super talented guy, but to me, you've got bands that like I say, not knocking them, but Aerosmith, when they brought in all the outside songwriters, granted, gave them an entire second leg of their career. Hats off to them, but it was two very different bands.
Yeah, it wasn't the
70s and just nothing to do with it the next time.
They weren't the cool Aerosmith of the 70s anymore. It was something else.
I mean, my favorite Aerosmith album doesn't have anything to do with punk. It has everything to do with rocks or Toys in the Attic.
It's Toys in the Attic and Back in the Saddle. It's not,
you know,
My Angel, stuff like that.
Jake's whole deal, and I always agreed with him, is, you know, his line of thought for how Badlands should be was the same. I agreed with everything that he said, is that he would rather be unsuccessful on our own terms than be successful on somebody else's.
Right.
So having some songwriter guy come in and write us a song and all this and that. And I think that was never going to be something that he agreed with. Jake's a brilliant writer on his own, brilliant guitar player. And I think he thought, in my opinion correctly, that we could come up with something as good or better. I mean, someone writing a hit song, even for Kings, if someone wrote us a song, we'd have to do our own take on it. I mean, I'm not gonna, if somebody came in and said, okay, you can have a record deal, which aren't that easy to come by anymore, on a major label thing, and we'll give you a bunch of money, but you got to do this song that
Desmond Child
yeah,
wrote.
yeah, Desmond Child wrote, I'd be like, yeah, great. We're going to have to mess it up some to make it like us. And when you're doing songs like that for Desmond Child and some of those guys, they want complete control over how you interpret the song. And
they want points. They want
yeah.
Well, they want to be a hit. So, you know, for Kings to come in and tear up their song, and now all of a sudden they're not going to make a bunch of money off of it. Badlands would have done the same thing. I mean, if you listen to Fire and Rain, it's our own take on it. It sounds like Fire and Rain, but it doesn't sound like James Taylor's Fire and Rain. It sounds like, you know, our vision of Fire and Rain.
With your version of it, if Ray had come in with a different melody and singing different lyrics, I don't think it would have occurred to me.
Well, you know, Ray's voice was so unique and so bluesy and so powerful. It didn't really matter what he did. I mean, no matter what we played, even we would do encores, and we would do cover songs as encores sometimes, just because no one else did it, and we thought, why not? And Ray's take on it, a lot of times he had never heard some of the music that Jake and I were influenced by growing up. You know, he wasn't familiar with Cactus or that familiar with Humble Pie, you know, the deep album cuts, and he wasn't that familiar with Captain Beyond and some of the bands that Jake and I really, you know, liked at the same time without knowing each other. But once he heard it and then he got in with his part, he just made it his own anyway. And that was perfect. Whatever we did, we made it our own. Whatever we do in Kings, we make it our own. And that's important to me. I mean, I don't know how much money or how successful Atomic Kings can be, and I don't really care. I mean, we do this because we like to do it. We have control over what we do.
Right.
And we interpret the music the way we want it. If someone gave us a good song and said, yeah, here, I have this song, do what you want with it, I might listen to it and say, I mean, I'm not against someone else's input. I mean, we all have input here in Atomic Kings. And if someone said, hey, I really got this idea, what can you do with it? I might listen to it, you know, but I would just have to tell them with the caveat that, hey, by the time we're done with this, it'll sound like us and us doing your original idea, but us doing it. And if you're comfortable with that, maybe so. I mean, Jake did a cover record for Mike Varney's label, and he did his own versions of those songs. It's like 10 different covers. It's Robin Trower and Trapeze and Grand Funk, and I can't remember, Captain Beyond and whatever. There's no Captain Beyond. But he did his own version, and I think that way. I mean, when I'm listening to someone play, I want to hear their emotion, you know, what their idea is, not a straight cover. I always think it's kind of too bad when someone does a straight cover of someone's song and it sounds almost exactly like the other person, except it can't sound as good because they are the original writer.
Exactly.
You know, Fire and Rain sounds like someone took it and made it better.
It sounds like Badlands.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of Atomic Kings, when is the album coming out or anticipated to come out?
We're looking at probably September, October-ish. Ken is heading back up to Vegas to continue cutting vocal tracks first part of next week. And he'll go up a couple more times. And then it's time to mix it and master it. You know, we knocked out the drums and bass in a couple of days, and then I went up and did official guitar, although some of my scratch guitar wound up on the record, just to go in and focus all the energy on guitar, because it was all about drums and bass before. So
it always is.
Yeah. So I did it again. I did it in about the whole album in about 14 hours or something like that. And the thing is, when Ken goes up, he's a singer. It's more of a physical thing. Like, I can play guitar for 16 hours straight or whatever.
Right.
Or, you know, it's 2 8-hour days or whatever. You know, I can go 8 hours at a stretch playing guitar tracks as long as the engineer's cool with it.
And if you got a head cold, you can still play.
Exactly. So like singing is a whole nother bag of
Rocks.
bag of rocks. Thank you.
You know,
So-
we recorded bass and drums and the rhythm guitars all in the same room. We went up and did it as old school as it can be done. And I mean, you were talking about people flying in from other states and stuff. That's all fine and well, and I've done some of that. But there's nothing that beats being in the same room and just hammering everything out together, looking at each other in the eye, or getting, you know, Jimmy gets some kind of crazy drum idea that we hadn't rehearsed and he goes off and plays it and I catch it part way through and I change my bass line that fits that, or Ryan does a solo and I mimic it, or vice versa. I'm doing something and he mimics that. Those are things that are like, they only happen if you're all in the same room and you're all kind of, you know, you catch that magic wave and there you go. So
Yeah, you can. I mean, yeah, it could be something as subtle as on the first 4 bars, you see Jimmy really emphatically hit the crash, and then you're thinking the next time it comes around, he's going to hit that again, and I'm going to do this run to match it.
Yeah.
Something you might not pick up on an emailed track or bussing stuff in, right?
well, when you're on an email track, you're kind of limited to what's on the track.
Sure.
And well, that's fine and well. And like I said, I've done a number of things like that, but I prefer the old school style. I suppose most people probably do. I mean, I get offers every now and then to do those things where there's a guy, 4 different guys in different cities, different states, and they do a cover song, like they're going to do a cover of Dio song or
Right.
or whatever it is. And that's for some reason, and nothing against guys that do it. It just doesn't interest me. It just doesn't. I listen to it and go, that just doesn't even seem fun to me. And I know guys that do it and they say, yeah, it's not that much fun, but it's promotion.
Sure.
And I'd rather we made a video, be either me or Ryan in the store or the whole band, and put that out as promotion. I would be.
I
much
get it
more
though.
comfortable
In the
with
last
that.
2 years though, with the COVID thing, I get them putting
Yeah.
things out there.
Yeah.
I think that was happening even before that, but I do know COVID that kind of thing was kind of a stopgap
Right.
for that sort of thing. And I get it, but I'm lucky that, you know, the 4 of us can get together in a room here and write the kind of material you want. And, you know, I mentioned earlier that record deals are kind of a thing in the past. Through the video in the parking lot, a guy, a friend of ours had seen it, and we were having an argument about how record companies work. And I was saying, well, I've had, you know, 5 record deals. And he goes, I own a record company. I said, oh. I said, well, I have a band, Atomic Kings. Would you be interested in hearing it? He goes, actually, I saw the stuff in the parking lot, and me and my partner were just going to ask you if you're interested in being on our label, which is Tone House Records. They're out of Las Vegas. The guy that the 2 owners are Jason Constantine and Jeff Duncan from Armored Saint.
I was just going to ask you if it was the same Jeff Duncan from Armored Saint.
Yeah. And Jeff's a friend of mine. We go back to, you know, LA in the early 80s when
Super nice guy.
when Armored Saint was around, and Odin and all those kind of things. His brother Matt's a really good friend of mine. His brother that plays drums right now in LA Gun, Sean, is also a good friend of mine. So the connection was already there. And so because I've known Jeff a long time and he's been in the business, I trust him. And Jason said all the right things. We did a little conference call, and he kind of heard where we're at, what we wanted to do, how we wanted to do it. And he was agreeable and actually excited about everything that we had to say. And the other part of it is he put up part of the money for the recording of it, which, you know, rather than just have him distribute our record,
Right.
he actually, which, you know, a lot of people will do that, but to have someone that actually is going to put up some money anymore.
In this day and age, it's a big leap of faith.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the fact that he was willing to risk as much as we're risking,
And it
and
gives him
actually
skin in the
more.
game.
Yeah.
He's got skin in the game. You know, he'll work the record because it's to his own best interest to make sure that the record gets out there and promoted properly. So, you know, it's the money is one thing, but it's that factor that they're more inclined to promote it that's important to us just as much as the money part.
He believes in what it is we do. I mean, to sign with someone that just wants to sign you or sign me because I have a resume or whatever is all fine and well, but I'd rather be with someone that believes in what you're doing. You know, when Badlands was on Atlantic, they weren't into us at all. They didn't.
They had 200 other bands to
They had
worry
200
about.
other bands. Skid Row was coming out the same time, and they didn't put any real effort into promoting us, and we probably weren't an easy band to work with. So, being with Jason at Tone House, Jason and Jeff, they believe in what we're doing. They'll put a lot of effort into it because they don't sign a lot of bands, and they'll work hard to, help promote us to a level that, makes sense to us. We'll go do some shows when it comes out. Will we go on tour for 6 weeks? No, we can't go on tour. I mean, he and I have to be here. Jimmy has his own business. Ken has his own business.
Right.
But I'm sure we'll do some fly-in stuff. I know we'll play in Vegas. I know we'll play at the Whiskey in San Diego and some of those kind of places, some places in Texas. We'll be able to go do that, select dates, and we're totally up for that. And they're totally up for helping push that as well. So it's a good deal for us.
Yeah, definitely. I'll be definitely waiting to hear it when it comes out and try to get up a review on it and stuff. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we're excited about it. We're pretty happy. I mean, Ryan and I have written a lot of songs together, and this is what's on this record is kind of the cream of the crop to that point. And we're pretty happy. We probably had maybe 18 songs written. We picked the 10 or 11 that we liked the best. And at some point we may rework some of the ones that didn't make it. But at that point, we'll probably have written other stuff by then. Jimmy he writes as well. There'll be something that Jimmy wrote on the record. It's an acoustic piece that will be part of something. And Ken is an actual very gifted guitarist as far as from a rhythm point of view and a harmonica player. So he also writes, and we haven't even really explored at all what his writing acumen would be. So I do think that
except for the lyrics and the
lyrics. He
melodies,
writes the lyrics and the melodies. But I mean, from a mute, he hasn't yet to come in and say, here's a song, which is something Ryan and I do quite frequently.
All right, so the album's coming out late summer, early fall. Atomic Kings, self-titled debut, Tone House Records. It's 10 variations of Rick Astley's "Never Gonna Give You Up."
Exactly. We are Rick rolling the whole world.
Rick rolling the hard rock world. And go over the social media sites, Instagram and Facebook, right?
Instagram and Facebook. Atomic Kings Band is the Instagram, at Atomic Kings Band. Facebook, you just search Atomic Kings and we should pop up. And there you can watch videos from the parking lot thing that we discussed earlier. And then also we did that gig with Ace Frehley at the Marquee. And there's a ton of, there might be the entire show out there. It was
I'm sure there is.
many.
I'm sure the entire show. I have people tell me, hey, I just saw your whole show on YouTube. And I'm like,
yeah, maybe it's on YouTube. I don't know.
I don't know. I've seen the previews and I've seen the Ace Frehley thing in the parking lot, but I don't think I've seen a whole show. But
yeah,
but if you've seen it, I guess it's out there.
I think every song we played is in its own video,
right?
So if you put it together,
it kind of is what it is. So there's songs that we played in either one of these, the parking lot or with Ace. There's going to be some songs on the record that we didn't play in the parking lot or with Ace. So there'll be some surprises
on the record. Yeah.
Right. Well, that's always a good thing. And then, of course, if you don't include one of the ones you played live, they'll be like, how come that song's not on there?
Well, the funny part is we're writing a song to play live that isn't going to be on the record because we haven't finished writing it yet. But it fills a spot in our live set that we thought we needed. And it's actually going to be a really good song. And I'm sure we'll get a lot of response like, your second song isn't on the record? What can I tell you?
Yeah.
It'll be on the third record or the live one.
Well, and like these days, a lot of people can just release a song if you really like it, put it down in the studio and just release it streaming between albums.
Yeah,
we've thought about that too.
Yeah,
stuff like that. It's always up. Yeah, and hopefully, by September we'll have our official single out, for streaming services and whatnot. So as the record gets wrapped up and we get close, hopefully September, and then the whole album, CD, and like to do vinyl if it's possible. It's a really long wait for vinyl now, but we'll see how it happens, how it all shakes out.
Yeah, I just don't have a vinyl player anymore, so it's just...
I'm a big fan. I got like 1,500 records.
Ryan always wears his vinyl pants into the store here, so he loves vinyl.
You couldn't do a whole interview
No,
without.
I couldn't. I'd feel like I shortchanged myself if I
Yeah,
didn't at least
yeah.
get one good shot
The
in.
fans really expected it.
Really,
They would have been disappointed.
I got to go to my fan base.
Yeah, well, the joke's on him when I put this video up. Greg's be like, Ryan always wears this. He's just like technical difficulties. They'll come back when he's-
Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
Oh, I see how this works now. Okay.
All right. Well, guys, I really
Let's pick on
appreciate
the
it.
old guy.
Yeah. Well, I'm between you two. I'm older than you, Ryan. So yeah, I'm not picking
Okay.
up anybody. But it's been a pleasure. I'm looking forward to the music. I like what I've heard so far. And then Ryan, pleasure to meet you. Greg, definitely an honor to finally speak to you. I think I've told you before, you're my holy trinity of the three bands from the late 80s that should have been enormous: Badlands, River Dogs, and Blue Murder.
Yeah, I
Great bands.
can't disagree with you. All three of those records are some of my favorite stuff. So
Yeah, I'll be sure to check it out and try to share the word wherever I can.
we
And
appreciate it.
we'll be looking forward to hearing more from you. Anytime you want to stop by to promote anything or talk about anything else, you are always welcome aboard, and we'll love to hear what you got to say.
Well, when the record comes out, we'll bring the other two in and let them talk.
That works. Yeah. We'll get
And boy can Ken talk.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're going to need a 4-hour marathon.
4 hours with Atomic King.
We got a soliloquy, a monologue from Ken this hour.
Yes, that's so quick.
Yeah. To be shut up.
Cool. Thanks again, guys. We'll be talking soon.
All
All right, thanks, Peter.
All right. Thanks for everything. Bye.
Bye-bye.